Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's another Monday. We are blessed to see another Monday, y'all. That means this month is moving. We are in the second Monday of March 2023. We're in the third month already, getting ready to close out the first quarter of this brand new year. And it has already been an eventful year. I don't know about you, but there's been some ups and downs and peaks and valleys and all of the above, the laughter, the joys, the tears, the losses, the gains, all of the above, which is part of life, right? So whether you are watching live or you're watching the replay, hey, just keep holding on, keep trusting that the Creator knows what the Creator is doing and is ordering your steps. Yes, and yes. So tonight, we just are excited that we get to gather together and have conversation and celebrate one another. It is the closeout of Women's History Month almost. A few more weeks, few more days, and we'll be closing out Women's History Month. I hope you're taking time to either read an article, read a book, some snapshots, an audio book, memoir. There's so many amazing memoirs written by women of color that will bless your life. Man, Viola Davis just won a Grammy for the audio version of her book, her memoir. So if you're looking for a book to read, maybe we'll put some titles on the IG or Facebook page, and Like Woman Facebook page or Like Woman private group, and give you some thoughts and ideas and to read and to realize that you're not the only one going through whatever you're going through. And there are so many women that have gone through some very difficult times, but through their faith and trust and tenacity and stick to itiveness, they've been able to walk the path that was set before them. So we will share those with you as well. So, yay, welcome, welcome, welcome. We won't be on long on tonight. We want to make sure you have the opportunity to enjoy your Monday evening, get set for the week. So, welcome to Mondays in the Meditation Room, where you can find all things enlightenment and empowerment for Black women in midlife, where we are redefining, reimagining, and recreating midlife. Yeah. Through the healing and mastery of our midlife inner life. Why? Because our identity is found in our Creator. Therefore, our worth and well being are ignited from within. So, what does that mean for us? That we have no reason to compete, compare, or complain because we can create. That is so good. That's our Mondays in the meditation room mantra from now on, y'all. I'm going to say it again, and eventually we'll all know it, and eventually I'll put it up so that we can have it. Hey, Sister Max, our Mondays in the meditation room mantra, right? Welcome to Mondays in the meditation room, where you can find all things enlightenment and empowerment for Black women in midlife, where we are what? Redefining, reimagining, and recreating our midlife inner life, where our identity is found in our Creator. Therefore, our worth, yes, and well being are ignited from within. We have no need to compete, compare, or complain. Why? Because we get to create. Yay, yay. Hey, Subi. So glad to see your name, and I just imagine seeing your face. Thank y'all for joining me on tonight. Yes, yes, and yes. As I was saying earlier, maybe before you guys jumped on, we are right in the middle of celebrating Women's History Month. I hope you find something to do to honor and celebrate the women in your life. Remember the women who came before you, and pouring into the young women that are coming behind you. Because in midlife, we start shifting our focus to a certain degree to our legacy and who are we pouring into, who are we encouraging, who are we mentoring, who are we helping to make the road a little bit smoother for so they don't have to go through some of the same pitfalls or get the same gravel in their shoe and have a hard time walking the path of womanhood. So, yeah, hey, happy Women's History Month, y'all. Happy, happy, happy for you, for all that you've done and all that you're doing, for the trailblazers and path makers you are. Go ahead and give yourself some love for your tenacity, right? And dogged strength to continue to live with joy and peace in a world that is constantly trying to push back on who God is in us as we live our lives. So just take a deep breath in, whew, and release it and say, yeah, all of that. So go ahead, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube, in the comments, greet your sisters tonight. Let us know you're here. Drop some love in there as we continue to love on each other. Y'all, so we are closing out this series. I absolutely love this series. I'm calling it a Black Woman Self-Love series. Remember, I was saying the goal was to teach it during February, is what doing what I call a love awareness month. But there were some days that I couldn't be in the room and life just lifes, right? And sometimes you have to make adjustments. And then I realized what boundary, what rule, what protocol is there that I have to stop it just because it's no longer February. What a wonderful way to spill over into March, Women's History Month, to talk about a Black woman's self love series. And it has been awesome. Ah, it's been blessing me. We started out with Love Your Genius. Your mind is divine. If you missed it, go back and watch the replay. And then we went to Love the Little Girl Within, Embrace Freedom. Last week, I thought we were going to have to do a two-parter, and we might have to revisit that. Oh my goodness. We did Love Your Body, a Sacred Vessel. And I mentioned a book to you, and I had not really begun reading it. And since our last time together, I started reading it. Man, already is powerful. And how about I did not realize that the subtitle of it fit right into what we have been talking about. So let me see if I can pull it up so you can see it and so you can remember it. Even show you a picture. This is the title, and that is the author, Sonia Renee Taylor. The Body is Not an Apology. Look at the subtitle, y'all. The Power of Radical Self-Love. What? Who? I mean, I just on an article I was reading and somebody mentioned it, and I said, let me add that to my library. And it was basically from the title. But look what I realized as I was pulling up the cover and writing it down. And when I started reading it, I said, oh my God, the power of radical love, radical self-love. Woo! you can't you can't beat God knitting and ordering your steps. I'm telling you. Yeah. And the author, let me go to that so I can make sure you see that. The Body is Not an Apology, The Power of Radical Self-Love by Sonia Renee Taylor. It's some good teaching, y'all. If y'all missed that one, go back and watch the replay of that one, right? So love your genius. Your mind is divine. Love the little girl within. Embrace freedom and love your body, a sacred vessel. And we're closing out tonight with Love You. Love You. Y.O.U. And that means you're ordained in optimal uniqueness. Love you. You're ordained in optimal uniqueness. And you know, you would think that we don't really have to say that to us as women, to, first of all, a Black Woman Self-Love series, and even say, love you. But the truth of the matter is, we absolutely do, because of our history, our collective trauma as Black women, the trauma and the joys and triumphs that travel with us through the century, through time, through our DNA, through our body. Our bodies remember. uh, my son did one of the 3 words on my husband's pastoral anniversary not too long ago. And we had the young adult speak, and he is a licensed clinical social worker. And he talked about the history of how we carry things from one generation to the next. And we need to be mindful of that and careful of that as well. And before he taught that, then of course, definitely after, I went through and read some research, and it says we absolutely carry generational experiences, fears, traumas in our own bodies from generations before. And here's the thing that really got me. They did some experiment with animals, and they exposed one generation to an experience, right? Some type of trauma experience. I don't know if they what they did to them, if they put some kind of uh, electric shock. I can't remember what it was. They exposed them to something that caused them to be fearful. Put it that way. And then they waited till they had children. Then they presented that same scenario to that next generation. And guess what? They responded with fear and apprehension, even though they were not experienced the same exact trauma. They presented it to them in a way that did not harm them, but just being in the environment of it, they exhibited fear out of memory. And they said it went down to the 5th generation, that even the 5th generation, that animal exhibited the fear of something that they didn't themselves experience, but it was in their body memory. Yeah. And how many of you know that that is absolutely the truth? That somewhere in our DNA is the experiences of what our foremothers have gone through. We live it. And so, hey, Tabby, welcome, welcome. We live it, we experience it, and that can be good and or bad. Some things just become a part of our cellular structure. And until we realize it and heal from it, our behavior and our thought patterns will be the same, and we may eventually pass it on to the next generation. And sometimes we pass it on by our words and our behavior, and before you know it, the generations, the girls coming after us or through us, or that we have, access to, begin to exhibit the same traits. Whew, man. So it's very important to know that some of those things have to do with our self image as Black women, unless we counter it with the truth of who we are and not let other people's narrative of who we are cause us to be less than who God created us to be. Right. So tonight we're just going to have a quick conversation about your ordained and optimal uniqueness, how to embrace it or even acknowledge it. This could be a start of that whole conversation with yourself. And it takes a courageous conversation with yourself to ask yourself, how am I doing? How am I processing life? How am I growing? How am I evolving? And am I becoming more and more and more in love with who God created me to be, and not, apologizing for who God has created me to be, not seeing my existence as an apology. Do you know women, um, a lot of times throughout the day, say things like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't mean that. Oh, excuse me." We instead of standing in our power and authority and assertiveness, we're constantly using language of apology as if we don't have a right to be in the spaces we're in, or as if for some of us that we don't even have the right to exist or be. But we know that that's not true, right? And so tonight, I just want to just take a few minutes to talk about it. That what then are some of the hindrances to embracing and loving our ordained and optimal uniqueness, right? We already talked about it. Words that we heard, words that were spoken to us, words that we may have overheard, right? That created thought patterns about ourselves or who we are or who we could be, perceptions, how someone treated you, how you perceived yourself to be after that moment can happen. And it might not even be what they meant. It might not even be their intent, right? Because even as children, we don't always know the full story behind things we hear or see or know. And we can just hear a conversation or take the word that somebody said to us and create a self perception of who we are and begin to govern ourselves accordingly, right? And then those experiences that affect, and sometimes I want to say infect us, that cause us to live in a diminished fashion, right? Or a way that doesn't allow us to walk fully in ourselves. You know, we deal with that too. You to this, you to this, you're to that, right? And then we embrace that. And we could have heard it one time and it could have settled, right? And you had a comment, and or you laugh loud. Somebody said, "Girl, you too loud. You need to be quiet." Or you think you smart, or you think you better than us, or something as simple as that. You don't belong here, or why are you here? Or or an aura or energy that someone may be putting off by making you feel that you're not welcome. And that stuff can settle in it. Man, for those who have then heard the opposite, that you are important, that you are loved, you are welcome, come on into this space, you deserve this. Whatever you've heard, it begins to shape your thought process and your self perception. You can have experiences where you've been disappointed or frustrated or embarrassed or felt guilty or even some level of shame, and it has begun to settle in you. And it's not just that you feel that something happened, you feel that you're at fault and you haven't forgiven yourself, and you've been living diminished because you haven't released that experience or that situation, and you're still living by it as if that experience or that mistake defined you, right? My husband and I was having a conversation today about how things can be in you and you don't even know they're in you until you ask spirit to just kind of help you through some things or change or grow or evolve. And spirit will go deep and just beginning to bring certain things up to surface, not to harm you, but so that you can see it, you can acknowledge it, and you can release it, right? And there were some things we were talking about. I was like, man, why I needed that to come back up again so that I can face it and realize that it was a mistake that I had made years ago. And I was holding myself hostage to making that mistake. And man, I was like, wow, it felt like a weight lifted, because I initially didn't even realize that thing was still hovering over my head and that I had not literally forgiven myself for that, to say, you did the best you could with who you were and the conscious level you were at that time as a young adult. And so release yourself from that and move forward. But what I've realized, the self perception that settled in me was preventing me from moving forward with the level of confidence that I needed. And I didn't even know it. And so we have to make sure we allow the spirit and ask some questions, have conversations. Um, are you holding yourself hostage for some decisions you have made in the past, or feeling guilty or feeling shamed or embarrassed by maybe something you may have said or done or messed up your finances or in your marriage, whatever it is? You and I are not defined by those moments in our lives. They are learning opportunities to learn who we really are. And you're not going to live this life on this earth without some mistake, or without living in a belief that is not in alignment with God's word about who you are. Mm. Woo! Ooh, anybody is a witness to that. So there are hindrances. Those can be hindrances to you loving you, your ordained optimal uniqueness, because you don't see yourself the same way God sees you. You have not given yourself permission to go for the life you want. That's why today I have my worthy t-shirt on. I want to remind myself and remind you that you absolutely are worthy. Those are those hindrances, those outside messages that then become inside messages. We regurgitate what we hear, and sometimes it's not even words, it's feelings. And then when we have those feelings, they get deep down inside. We begin to have behavior based on feeling unworthy, feeling ashamed or guilty, feeling incapable, right? Those feelings. And here's the thing, feelings locate you, but they're not good leaders. They let you know where you are in that moment, but they're not good leaders. So we need to make sure we allow ourselves to feel and don't make decisions about who we are and the rest of our lives on current feelings, because you and I know our feelings and our emotions will change a gajillion times during the day, right? So we have those hindrances, and you may have some that you want to articulate yourself. If something is coming up for you, come on, help the tribe. Put it in the chat on Facebook or the comments on YouTube, whatever it is. What hindrances do you see or have lived through or overcome? And you're on the other side and you want to help a sister out on tonight, that living your ordained and optimal uniqueness can have hindrances. And we have the hope that we have is that it's not permanent if it's a negative thing, if it prevents you from living full out in who you are and being okay, right? And so then not only that, then we have hope. Here's the hope, that even this morning, as we were having that conversation, I began to exchange the lies that I didn't even realize I was living by as standard, right, for the truth. That's our hope. Even though there are hindrances, that's the key. A hindrance is something that just holds you back for a season, it just slows you down. It cannot necessarily stop you unless you allow it, right? So then, what is our hope if we're dealing with those hindrances? Was we exchange lies for the truth, because sometimes we don't even know that we're living by a diminished or kind of, what I want to say, distorted truth, because the enemy is good and you and I are good even on our own, and other people is a half truth or a little bit of a truth, but it's not quite the truth. Then that really equals what? An untruth or a lie. We have to learn how to exchange it. If it's anything that keeps you feeling small or trapped or blocked, right? No forward motion, something that makes you feel like you cannot or not enough, anything that makes you feel condemned or guilty or shame, any of those things, right? that is not the truth of you. We may feel convicted, like, you might get checked, and then you're like, "Woo, yeah, okay, I shouldn't have did that. Well, I shouldn't have said that." Then you release it and you apologize either to God, to the person, or yourself, and then you move forward. But anything that causes you to constantly live in that place of condemnation, and you're always holding your own self back, and you're always speaking negative about yourself and even other people, that you spend a lot of time hoping and pulling other people down, yeah, that is a lie. So we need to exchange lies for the truth, because truth frees you. Truth sets you free. Truth sets you apart from anything that will cause you to live below or beneath or hinder, right? Or that you feel like you got to hide, or you walking on eggshells around people. Anything like that, exchange that, right, for the truth. And here's the thing, while you are in that process, because it indeed is a process, be patient with the undoing. Woo! Be patient with the undoing, because sometimes your life as it is, your thought process as it is, your belief as it is, your way of life as it is going to come tumbling down when you start walking in the truth, and things will unravel. Sometimes it's relationships, and sometimes it's just your self perception and self talk to yourself. Be patient with yourself in the undoing, because when you grow and when you evolve, something is going to have to go. Something's going to have to give. You're going to have to let go of something in order to be something else. You can't be the same person and be a new person at the same time. You're going to have to release something, right? Right? Is that old adage, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't keep the cake and want to eat the cake at the same time. You either going to eat it or you going to just have it and look at it, but you can't do both. Guess what? You can't live a lie and live the truth at the same time. You can't grow and evolve and love yourself and hate yourself at the same time. They might kind of occupy the same place for a minute, but after a while, when you keep exposing yourself to the truth, when you keep praying and asking God to help you, when you are determined to resist that lie and to live in peace and wholeness, that stuff is going to have to fall away. But can I tell you, it is painful. It is a process. It can be scary, right? Because you don't know who you're going to be when you come through that, but you are going to be all right. That's all. Let me reach out, say, touch your hand, say, hey, 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 you gonna be all right. Be patient in the undoing, because sometimes you can think you're through with something, and you think you're over something, and then something triggers that and brings it back up, and you got to say, okay, wait, 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 I may not have dealt with that, I may not have released it, and you got to release it again. Woo! Come on, put your hand over your heart and say, be patient, be patient, be patient. I'm going to be patient with myself in the undoing. Hmm. As you know, if you've ever seen a building being built or them redoing a building, when they have to gut that thing out, it looks worse before it starts looking better. And it takes a minute before it looks like what the finished plan is. The finished plan looks wonderful, right? But the building of it, or the remodeling and the gutting and the tearing down, it's messy. It's messy. And you sometimes can't even see what it's going to look like. But then when things start coming together and they're cleaning as they go, you can start seeing, you can start getting a vision or idea of what it's going to look like. And sometimes that's what it's like for us, that undoing, that living in the truth, that healing process. It's messy. It's ooh, and you're like, ooh, my goodness. And so while you're in that process, be patient. And don't say so, oh, I should be over it by now. Well, if you're not, ain't no need in you saying you're not. That don't help it. That just makes it worse. Somebody says what you resist persists. So if you're not over it, then just say, God, I need a little bit more grace. Because pretending you are or being mad when you're not is not going to help you, not one bit. Woo! All right, so we're dealing with walking and loving our ordained and optimal uniqueness. There's hindrances, we acknowledge them, but we don't succumb to them because that's just all they're hindrances. They're sometimes distractions, right? And then there is the hope that what is does not always have to be. I get to evolve. I have give myself permission to grow. I might be different. I might be different in the same day or from one day to the next, and you're not gonna hold me hostage to what I just said yesterday. Okay, I ain't even gonna hold myself hostage, right? Because I might be growing and changing. What I said yesterday, what I said this morning might not hold no water or weight by the time I get to the evening, because I may have gotten a revelation where I'm letting that thing go. Come on in here, somebody. Say yes. So exchange the lies for the truth. It's a process, and be patient with the undoing, because something is going to have to give and go. And finally, yes, let's talk about the fact that there is help. Yes, why we want to love you. This A Black Woman Self-Love series is so important. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just a drop in the bucket. It's like a pebble hitting the ocean of the vastness of what it takes for us to walk in the greatness of who God created us to be, right? To love your ordained and optimal uniqueness. Why did I say that? There's help. We have to you and I have to reaffirm our God consciousness, not our self consciousness, not the world consciousness, not what people are telling us, not even who our family says we're supposed to be. We have to reaffirm are thinking like God, thinking as God thinks about us, thinking higher, transcending what is to what is higher thinking. Think on these things: what is beautiful, what is right, what is lovely, what is just, those things about ourselves. I'm not talking about ignore reality and pretend. No, I'm not talking about that, but we can live in reality and also have a way of thinking higher than what is, because a lot of times what is not God's ordained and optimal way of being. So we have to be able to be here present, deal with it as it is present, but don't let it drag us down to we can't have hope or have the vision to see greater than what is. Right? So that help is reaffirming your God consciousness, right? Thinking the way God, to have the mind of God that says this, there's greater, that peace is available, that love, come on, supersedes it all, that it's not just about me, and it's not, how we say it ain't about me, it's all about God. But guess what? God requires us to be in relationship with ourselves and each other. So it's also about the collective good of humankind and how we can add to the goodness, how we can add to the love. We might not be able to fix everything, but if we work on the place where God has us to be, as who God called us to be, then we made a difference. And you'd be surprised how many people lives you have changed just by you being you and being okay with being you. Because when you be you be surprised how you give other people permission to be themselves. And we don't have to figure it out for everybody else. We got to judge what everybody else is doing and how they live in their lives. We just got to let them be and love them as we love ourselves. Right? So reaffirm your God consciousness, which really consciousness, which really means awareness, the awareness of God, the awareness of God's mind about you. Will we know everything about God in this lifetime? Probably not. But God is showing us enough of God's self that we know some things that we can say, oh, that ain't God. Because we know the truth. And that thing used to confound me all the time, because I would see people espousing Christianity, or that this is God, but yet they're full of hate, and they even pray hateful prayers and wish demise and destruction on other people, or they can treat women crazy, or they can treat people that don't look like them crazy and then say, they belong to God. That thing just troubles me all the time. And so I just had to go to God and say, I acknowledge, God, that there's different levels of truth in this earth that people are espousing or they're hiding behind to control, whatever it is. Help me to live by your truth to the best of my ability. That's all we can do, because I can't keep getting upset and mad, right? About people trying to tell me what my worth is or isn't, and then saying that truth that they're espousing is from God, that they're representing God. I refuse to believe it. Just like the great theologian that I love, Howard Thurman, he talked about how his grandmother would not read certain sections of the Bible because the enslavers would use that to keep them down and ignorant. And she said, well, I know God is bigger than that. That's not the God I serve. Woo-hoo! Yes. And we don't have to be beholden to somebody's level of theology and talk about God that would keep us bound. And they don't have a monopoly on talking about God. Man, that's a whole nother level. Okay, I digress. Let me move forward. So, where is that help? Reaffirm your God consciousness, reaffirm your awareness, and then realign with God. In other words, agree with God for your ordained and optimal uniqueness. In other words, when I say ordained, that means that God literally anointed you to be who you absolutely are in your uniqueness, in your special giftedness, your reason for being in the earth, the people you will be able to touch and help and lift because of your uniqueness, right? God, or when God knit you together in your mother's womb to bring you into the earth in this generation, God stamped God's sign and stamp of approval on you the moment you took your first breath. And really before that, as he was knitting you together and putting who you were inside of you and who you are out there to be. We can conform and we can try to change and we can try to fit in, but there still is a unique, individualized person in who God just said, boom, that's you. Boom, that's how I want you to show up in the world. Boom, that's the voice I want you to have. That's the hair I want you to have. Those are the eyes on the nose I want you to have. That's the disposition and the gifting that I want you to have. That is ordained by God. So when we try to be something else, we're telling God that God didn't get it right. Love you. And then what? That optimal, that means the most, the best, the highest self you can be for who you are and not what everybody else is doing. Love you. You're ordained, God set apart, and optimal, maximizing the best of who you are supposed to be. Optimal uniqueness. That means different than anybody else. And I loved it. Went to a wedding this past weekend. I can't even tell it all. I'm gonna try to get myself together and make some posts so y'all can see it. But it was phenomenal. And the attire was formal, and we all had to wear the same color, which was black. But can I tell you, you talking about uniqueness, not a one person had on the same thing, even though we were all wearing the same color. Those dresses, the shoes, the accessories, even the brothers, everybody had on black, but everybody had their unique style. It was amazing. It was phenomenal. Oh my God, over 100 people dressed in black. I'm telling you, I did not see the same dress or the same suit or the same shoes or the same accessories at all that entire day. And that's what God says. We are the same in our humanity, but I have made you unique. So walk in it, love it, appreciate it, cherish it, maximize it, grow it, And love yourself, Black woman, for who God has created you to be, especially in this midlife season as you are transitioning into another season and a way of being in your life. Grab a hold of that word and get to know you and love her. Woo! Love it, love it, love it. Thank y'all for hanging out with me, whether it's tonight or you join me um, through replay. Thank you for hanging with me, and thank you for joining me in the room and encouraging each other in the comments. Even if you're watching the replay, leave some comments, leave um, some comments in the Facebook page or on the YouTube, whatever you're going to do. Go ahead and encourage us to stay and encourage yourself. Yes, yes, and yes. Thank you. Because I believe you're already making your own history during this Women's History Month. Celebrate yourself. Celebrate yourself. Now, I want you to put September 23rd on your calendar as we are working on our Serenity Experience 2023, the Serenity Experience 2023, Well, Worthy, and Wealthy, the most amazing and uniquely curated curated experience for Black women in midlife. You do not want to miss it. I'm just overjoyed with the moon of what it's going to be. It's going to look completely different. We're going to be at a spa doing our Serenity Experience Day. So get your coins together to pay for registration. Get your coins together so you can take advantage of the experience. When we're there, you'll start seeing the save the dates, September 23rd. Just put it on your calendar. Put the Serenity Experience. Call your sister, email your sister, text your sister, bring a sister with you, and say we going to the Serenity Experience in September. September 23rd. Well, worthy and wealthy. It's our time. It'll be our first time back in person since the pandemic, and I'm looking forward to it. All right, y'all. Yay, Subi. I knew it. I was like, that's Susan's birthday. So, yep, September 23rd. I had it the week before, but I had to change it because I didn't want to diminish the options that we would have as the women while we're at the spa. All right. So I said, well, nope, take it to the day where we will have the most. And by tomorrow, I'll have more information. So you can go ahead and start making your spa reservations and all that good stuff. So I'll give you some more information as soon as my graphic artist has our save the date stuff up, and be ready. All right. Love, love, love y'all. Thank y'all for joining me on Mondays in the meditation room with Dr. K. Looking forward to our next conversation as we hang together. Don't forget, Enlightened Woman, your place for enlightenment and empowerment for all things for Black women in midlife. Love y'all. Have an amazing night. See you soon. Bye. Yeah, I love it. Bye, y'all.